All right. And by the way, Val is on. He's my assistant, just so if you don't, hopefully that's okay with you guys. He's learning too. Okay. All right. So, and you can see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, as you can see, this is kind of the main image that you're probably used to seeing. The main page that has the CMR score, and it also has the figure of the human body, and then it kind of breaks it into vascular, autonomic, and lifestyle. And essentially, what the Flow 7 does, or TM Flow does, is it's using three different types of procedures to gather biometric information, and then that is fed into a software program that derives all of these markers through the use of mathematical computation. So, at the very basic level, all of the markers are extremely they're validated through science, right? Because they're just using math to get these markers, and they're proven methods to find out these markers through the years of medical research. But what the value of what you have is you have it all centralized in one place and served in a way that's after this easy to understand, right? The other thing that's valuable about it is that you're comparing autonomic function with vascular function. And the reason why that's important is because oftentimes you have a patient with an autonomic issue and the vascular is overlooked, or you have a vascular issue with the patient and the autonomic is overlooked. But what's important, especially with like, let's say a condition like neuropathy, it's not only an autonomic issue, it's also vascular because the blood feeds those nerves. So it's not just okay, you have neuropathy, we're going to treat this. It's you want to find out what's the blood flow like. The other thing that's deceptive about certain types of conditions is that the symptoms are very common and they're universal. So, for
Yeah.
example, you have patients that they're going to give you, and especially, are you guys see a lot of patients with vague symptoms? They may come in and say, "Oh, my legs are tingling," and it's up to you to figure it out from there. And if you're
Yeah.
doing pyro as well, then now you also have to think about an orthopedic solution as well. At least with this is going to give you the metabolic solution, right? And so,
Yeah.
if they have a tingling legs, then it could be neuropathy, it could be peripheral vascular. The treatment for those are very different, right? And
Yeah.
so that's where the value is. And that's why this is broken into three different parts. You have the vascular assessment, the autonomic assessment, and the lifestyle assessment. The vascular and then you have your score, your CMR score, which is comprised of 40% vascular, 40% autonomic, and then 20% lifestyle. And so the CMR score, it's not necessarily like if you have a lower score than a higher score, it's not necessarily means that the person with the lower score is in worse health as like a standard rule, because some of the markers weigh differently in terms of your overall health. And so, like, let's say that this CMR score right here, there's a lower a lifestyle score, right? And a lower, and then the vascular score and the autonomic. Each one, it kind of, if you have a numerical value that's lower, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's more severity to the patient. You have to actually look into where the actual abnormality is and then assess it from there. And so with the report, you have the three kind of main categories, but within those three categories, there's really five reports you're getting. You're getting an ABI, an endothelial and blood pressure, a cardiac autonomic, a pseudomotor, and a wellness. Now, if you break that into CPT codes, the ones that that relate to reimbursable procedures are the ABI, the cardiac autonomic, and the pseudomotor. The endothelial and blood pressure and the wellness, you're not actually getting any sort of CPT code acknowledgement from there, but the information is still very valuable. And the reason why there's CPT codes related to the ABI, the cardiac autonomic, and pseudomotor is because the procedures that the TM Flow does, like I said earlier, there's three procedures. Those procedures are relatable to those particular reports. So you're doing an ankle brachial index with the blood pressure cuffs. you're doing the cardiac autonomic reflex test with the heart rate variability test when you're doing the Valsalva maneuver and the change in postures and measuring the blood oxygen content on the patient through the pulse oximeter and measuring their pulse. The pseudomotor, as you know, is the bioimpedance. Is basically, they call it galvanic skin response, but it's the same as a bioimpedance scale. It sends a very small electrical current through the patient's body, through the electrodes that are on the bottom of the patient's feet, and that's getting you the pseudomotor marker. And I'll take you through those markers, but you're stimulating the small nerve fibers there in the sweat glands and getting markers based on the response. And that's going to give you markers for small fiber neuropathy as well as microcirculation. And then your wellness report is kind of a compilation of the I'd say they're kind of like the trendy markers that are on the other reports. So and I'll take you through these specifically, but your wellness report is meant as a way to relate the your interpretation to the patients in a way that they can understand and get excited about, right? Because like you said at the beginning, the biggest problem is, yeah, you can get all this data, but if you don't know how to tell the patient what to do, first of all, then you're already dead in the water. And if you do know how to tell them what to do, but they don't want to do it or they're not inspired, then they're not going to help themselves anyway. Now, we all know at the end of the day, you're going to be able to solve most of this stuff that's not like a severe medical problem through better diet, exercise, and wellness, right? We all know that. But patients, you know how patients are. They're normal humans, normal Americans. We kind of don't always follow the advice of what we know we're supposed to do. And so the wellness plan's meant to kind of give a status report for the patients and also give them guidelines for and a pathway for health and wellness. Now, your report is probably going to have a little bit of an interpretation on it. Now, the new cloud, it has a very comprehensive interpretation, which is algorithmically generated, and that's what you're seeing in the middle of the screen. What we'll do is we can look at one of the older reports, and I'll show you where to find that. But the newer, if you guys end up, moving forward with implementing this in your practice more heavily, I would suggest upgrading to the cloud because these interpretations are making it a lot easier for not only the physician but also for the patients to understand. Because then the 30 or so markers, you don't have to think in your mind, oh my gosh, what does all of these mean? It's all just generated for you, and then you can make your notes from there. It gives you a baseline. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, you can always just ask me.
Okay.
So now I'm going to show you each individual report, and we'll talk about the markers. So first, ABI. This one's ABI and TBI. Do you guys have toe pressure, or do you just have the normal ABI?
I think it's just ABI.
Okay, okay. So the newer versions, they're doing a toe pressure as well. So not only are you're measuring both ankles, both arms, but you're also measuring both toes. And that'll give you a little bit more accurate ankle brachial index. But the ABI is pretty cut and dried. So you have the brachial systolic and diastolic pressure. And then you have for the dorsalis pedis and the I'm forgetting what the other artery is, but those are on the ankles. So when you're doing the ABI, as you have to rotate the cuff on the ankle.
Yeah.
It's the medial malleus. So that rotation allows you to get both of the arteries, the important arteries for getting the ankle brachial. And so that's why these markers are broken into four. So you're getting on the arms, right? And then you're getting both arteries on the legs. And as you see a little bit further down, those are toe pressure markers, but those won't apply to yours. But then you have your ankle brachial index, which is basically top over bottom divided by, right? And it will give you colors that will indicate whether there's issues. But you can also look, and these are on your reports as well. You can also look, and they have guidelines. And a guideline will actually relate it to you. So if you have ranges that are Above one and below one, you're going to have different conditions, right? So here you go, your overall ABI and TBI. Let's see. So if you're at uh, normal range, non-compressible, acceptable. So this chart gives you what is going to be acceptable. So for ABI, again, it's the type of marker because it's so critical that if you have anything that's orange, I would say those would be ones that you'd want to basically have a specialist look at because again, that's really out of all of the markers here, that's the one that can be critical. And you know, you really don't want to leave anything like that to chance. So the ABIs are probably the most important ones to keep track of. And there's more information to find out about the ABI. If there's this document here called the Results Reading Guidelines, which I'll send to you after this, but you might already have it. But it'll give you more information about the ABI in terms of what is acceptable, what you need to be looking out for, and how to read it. And it's right here.
Okay. You're gonna send that?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, download it right now and send it to you.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And really everything's on here. So we'll probably be referring to this document a couple times throughout here. Um, this also shows, and you'll have this on your reports, the waveforms, right? And again, they're not really that important to your normal interpretation. If you get audited, they're good to say, well, look, we did the actual report. Here's the waveforms, right? But other than that, for 99% of the offices, the waveforms aren't really that important. It's mainly just making sure that you don't have a severe color on this particular ABI, and then if you do, to know whether or not it's going to be either below or above one, and what that means. Now, your endothelial and blood pressure. This one is kind of confusing to people, but I'll just simplify it. So each one of these markers relates to a certain type of condition, right? So we have C-reactive protein, which is also correlated to inflammation. You have your the upper artery atherosclerosis risk. You have arterial stiffness. You have insulin resistance, which is a precursor to diabetes. You have a fibrinogen lab test. Now that has to do with your blood clotting. So if you are doing wound care or anything like that, that's an important marker. And then you have all of your normal blood pressure markers, the CAS markers down at the bottom. Now, the way that you would interpret an endothelial, it comes down to having more than one abnormal marker, okay? Now, the way that they look at it is if you have one, or I guess over one, then you're going to be getting into the initial steps of endothelial dysfunction, okay? So again, you have to relate this in a couple different ways. So you want to look at it from one way, from just the overall endothelial health, and then the other way is looking at the individual markers and what they relate to. So for example, this particular patient, they have, it looks like they're having moderate inflammation because the C-reactive protein. They're at moderate risk for atherosclerosis, and they have moderate arterial stiffness. Their insulin resistance, though, is fine. Now, those are important if you're treating particular types of conditions. However, if you're just looking at the overall health and wellness of their endothelial function, then you would see that this one has three or more abnormal results, and so they do have severe endothelial dysfunction. Okay. So you would then elevate or escalate that however you would normally treat a patient with endothelial issues, okay? And a lot of times endothelial is showing up from patients that have had COVID. So those are the types of things just to be aware of. But if you're just going to break it down to the individual issues, this particular patient would have an inflammation issue, and that's going to show up also in their wellness report. And so it's kind of like with the endothelial, there's two ways to look at it. One is just the overall and how many markers that are abnormal, uh, and then secondly is going into the individual markers. And if we look at the overview, we'll see that the endothelial function, it's automatically telling us that there's a severe impairment. Okay, and that's because there's more than three borderline markers, or I guess three or more abnormal results actually. So that's kind of how you would do an interpretation for endothelial. Now, if you forget this, I'm going to send you the recording of this, but if you forget this, you just go back to this document and you look up endothelial function in here, and it will give you more of the reasoning behind why these are the results, like where we're getting the markers from, how we're finding these out, and then what they relate to, and that's all right here as well. And that's all highly technical. So you're going to get every once in a while, you're going to get a patient that's going to try to bust your chops. And these documents are very valuable for that. This also gives you some common treatments. Now, the manufacturer for this equipment doesn't really like to give medical advice, obviously. But in this document, there are some common treatments, and usually they're non-pharmacological. But so sometimes they seem relatively generic because, as you can see, exercise, diet, smoking cessation, stress management, that's everything. But you will get some good information in here. And the endothelial is usually a harder one to interpret. Cardiac autonomic is the same. So cardiac autonomic is all based on the Toronto Consensus Panel, a subcommittee, cardiac autonomic neuropathy subcommittee of the Toronto Consensus Panel. And essentially, it's the same thing. If you have more than a certain number of abnormal results, then you're trending towards cardiac autonomic neuropathy. And as you know, cardiac autonomic neuropathy has to do with how the heart is controlled by the neurological system. So it's really the electricity going to the heart. And this is really what defines autonomic dysfunction. If you have patients that come in with autonomic dysfunction, oftentimes they're extremely uncomfortable. They're frantic at times. To give you an idea of what you'd feel like if you have autonomic dysfunction, imagine running a mile and your heart rate not going up. Or conversely, imagine just watching TV and sitting on your couch and your heart rate's just booming. That's how alarming that could be. I mean, it really, if you think about that, like it's really, really concerning for patients. So patients with autonomic neuropathy, you're going to know to look for it, because they're going to tell you something like that, and you're going to know, okay, wow, that sounds like we need to do a heart rate variability test and check. And so what the heart rate variability test does is you're basically you're testing the patient in four different states. Like, as you remember, they lay down to start the test, so that's resting. So when you take the baseline measurement, you're taking the resting heart rate and resting pulse oximetry, the blood oxygen content. And then when you start the test, you have them do the Valsalva maneuver. That's the equivalent of getting them to get their heart rate up. All right, so the Valsalva maneuver, you have them blow on the manometer. It gets their heart rate up after 15 seconds, and then we test how their heart rate recovers from that challenge. After that, you do a deep breathing exercise. So that's getting them more oxygen to their blood. How does their heart rate respond to that? And then the last thing is you're having them stand up, and then you take the pulse oximetry and the blood pressure. And from there, you're getting them a basically change from sitting to standing. You're detecting POTS through that. And those four things are what qualify the test from a CPT code perspective to be reimbursable, because you have to do at least four, but also is giving you these different states that the patient's going at, and you're testing how the heart rate variability, how the heart responds. Now, when you look at these, really all of these markers on the left, they don't really mean a lot. I guess really, well, the top two do, but when you get into the Valsalva, the EI ratio, and the K3015, all those are um, referring to are the different states of the reflex test. So K3015 is laying down 30 seconds, or doing the laying down 30 seconds and then standing up. The Valsalva ratio is after they do the Valsalva maneuver, and then the EI ratio is their deep breathing response. And so basically, those results are how does the body respond, because how does the body respond to the exercise or to the change of state. And to get down to how you interpret this, you're essentially looking for, again, a number of abnormalities. So here it says if there's one abnormal uh, result in step one, and at least one HRV and one CART result abnormal step two, then there's an orthostatic intolerance. And so that's initial steps. So if you look at each one of these, it's going to give you the actual interpretation for that particular patient. So like if we were going to look on this patient, we would look, they would be in the advanced CART results. And so they would have postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So POTS, they have POTS detected. Um, Now, if they had some issues with the blood pressure at the bottom, then that would also qualify them as severe cardiac autonomic neuropathy. But because it didn't affect their blood pressure, it's just considered POTS. So that's how you can make that distinction. And again, this one's the one that relates to the 95921 billing code. The pseudomotor is probably the easiest to understand. You're basically sending a very small electric current through the bottom of the patient's feet. It's stimulating their sweat glands. And from there, you're able to get their nitric oxide peak, as well as some microcirculation information. And it is giving a couple ranges that would indicate trending towards small fiber neuropathy. Now, if you this one, if you actually get under a certain amount, it's actually considered small fiber neuropathy. So you have a bona fide marker. And what's valuable about that to the practice, especially if you guys are doing chiro, a lot of chiro practices are doing neuropathy screening. This report will give you a way to qualify your patients for neuropathy, for neuropathy treatment. It gives you a medical report to give to the patient to say, hey, listen, you have inflammation in your feet. You look like you're trending towards neuropathy. And then the value add on top of that is if you detect an abnormal ABI for your patient, then you could have potentially saved their life. So this is a really good one if you're doing neuropathy testing and neuropathy treatments. And it gives you, not only does it give you a neuropathy, but it also gives you microcirculation response, which is basically the blood flow to the nerves right there. And so that gives you another marker for and how to treat it. And this right here will actually, and you guys have this in your portal. So if you look in your laptop, the software on the laptop, and if you want, we can zoom into that next. They'll have these ranges here, and this graphic that kind of tells you exactly how it's working. And then let's look up neuropathy on here, or on the pseudomotor function. Yeah, so it has all of this mentions why this, the studies that essentially relate to the pseudomotor function, and what the different markers mean. But essentially anything in here that's I'd say yellow. Actually, it actually just gives you the actual ranges right here. So you have for sweat response, you have borderline, moderate, severe, these numbers. So anything under 512 is going to be neuropathy. And then for the nitric oxide peak, again, those are you have borderline, moderate, and severe, and it gives you the actual ranges. And these are also on yours as well.
So even if that test is normal, they could still have neuropathy though, correct?
How so?
That's just what we were told whenever we were, I guess, like a lady come and demonstrated this machine before we bought this one from someone else, and that's what we were told.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you would, I don't know another way to diagnose small fiber neuropathy better, because this is diagnosing right at the beginning of it, the C nerve fibers. It's the beginning of uh, the nerve. So let me show you this thing again. So that's C nerve. This is the smallest one, right? So if you were going to do, let's say that you would say, let's say the patient had, like you did a vibration test or a microfilament test, um, and they came up, let's say they came up negative, they could still be positive for the beginning stages of neuropathy on the sudomotor test. But conversely, it wouldn't really work the other way because the neuropathy develops from the C fiber upward, not the other way around. So I don't know how else you would define neuropathy on a patient, or at least small fiber neuropathy. Now, they might have cardiac autonomic neuropathy, where they have neuropathy that's affecting their heart. But in terms of small fiber neuropathy or neuropathy in their extremities, this is the way to find it out. So maybe she was talking about other types of neuropathy, but for small fiber, this is the way to. There's nothing beyond the C fiber. Then that's where it starts. Does that hopefully answer your question a little bit?
Yeah.
Now, the wellness report is, like I said, a compilation of a lot of the other markers. And this wellness report is really valuable in terms of pushing your patients towards a healthier lifestyle.
Hmm.
And a lot of these you already understand, right? You have heart rate, you have blood oxygen saturation, you have your blood pressure, then you have exercise recovery, you have your sympathetic activity at rest, which just basically that's their overall wellness in terms of how their body, if they were just like normal regulation, how does their body regulate normally, right? If they're really stressed out, then that's going to be elevated, right? That means that their sympathetic activity is higher than their parasympathetic. If they're balanced, that means they're just chilling. If it's low, there might be an issue there. They might have some sort of issue because their parasympathetic is, there might be too relaxed. A lot of that's, but like runners will have lower heart rates than normal people. They a lot of times runners will have lower or have a higher parasympathetic activity than sympathetic. So it's not necessarily that going with a higher parasympathetic activity doesn't necessarily mean that there's a major thing going on there. The SDAN is correlated to exercise tolerance. So uh, how well does their body relate to exercise? And then you have the inflammation marker, right? So this inflammation, again, you see the stress index here. It's the same as on the endothelial and blood pressure. Stress index, the C-reactive protein here it's labeled C-reactive protein. In wellness, it's labeled inflammation. The reason being is because patients understand inflammation more than they understand C-reactive protein. Same thing with insulin resistance. That's a really, really important marker for you to keep an eye on for your healthy patients because that's the beginnings of diabetes. So if you have an insulin resistance, abnormal insulin resistance, but they don't have diabetes yet, that's a conversation. That's something that you can actually make an impact with your patients, your healthy patients. And then you have your fat mass, your weight. That's obviously very, very good for weight loss counseling because it gives you your BMI and it gives your fat mass. And then you have your oxidative stress and your upper artery atherosclerosis risk. So all of those combined will give you your wellness guidelines, and you have these wellness guidelines in terms of lifestyle. It's pretty simple. If they have above an 18, they've got a good lifestyle. This one has a 12, so they're considered poor. Anything below 8 is very poor. So this person would be necessary. They'd be almost borderline, right? And then your wellness plan is algorithmically generated. Now, in the newer version, you can actually adjust the diet and exercise plan. Do you guys do wellness counseling at all, or what's kind of your main philosophy at your practice?
We do the wellness portion as well. We have a
Okay,
lot of different things that we do.
awesome. Yeah, so with the wellness plan, it's designed to give them diet, exercise, weight loss, and then do you guys sell supplements?
Yes.
Okay. So here you can add and remove these supplements. Not in the version you have, but if you got, like I said, if you guys decide to start doing more of these tests, you should upgrade to here because this is kind of a good, I don't want to say it's like a money maker, but it's good because it gives you a way to also influence the interpretation of the results without changing any of the markers, right? So if you have a particular diet that you want to promote, if you have a certain supplement stack that you want to promote, you can come in here and make those edits. Otherwise, they're generated through the report based on the patient's condition. And let me show you what the new report looks like, or we can look at these reports, the physical reports. Hold on one second. All right. So again, this is going to look a little bit closer to like what you guys are used to. So this is what you're used to seeing. So again, we've kind of talked through all of this, but we'll go to the wellness. This one's going to be a little bit different. So wellness plan again, you have your markers, you have your CMR score. This one's actually just the wellness score. And then you have your trends. Have you guys noticed that if you test a patient more often, more than once, you have a trend on your report? Have you seen that?
No, we never tested a patient more than once.
Okay, so you'll have trends, which is good because you can obviously influence them based on the trend. And again, these reports they're meant to give actual actionable items, right? The diet with the types of foods per servings, why it's the way it is, and then you have your exercise and the types of exercise it's going to work. And so, again, you don't necessarily want to give the patients this report, this entire report, the 12 page, because they're going to get a lot of stuff on there that they just have no idea. If I was a patient, I saw severe endothelial function impairment, I'd be blowing up the doctor with questions. But really, it's better to give them the lifestyle and say, okay, look, your inflammation is moderate, right? Your oxidative stress is borderline. Your sympathetic valve is abnormal, right? So these are things that you can do to improve that. This patient doesn't need to lose any weight, which is great. And these are the types of exercise that you'd use, and then these would be the supplements that we'd recommend. So that's pretty much the report. If you want, we can talk through. I can answer questions, or we can talk through some of the studies, or we can look at your computer. What would be most useful?
Yeah, so I have the TM Flow computer in here now.
Okay,
If
cool.
um
Is there a team viewer installed on it?
yeah, but it wants me to like log in or have an account for that, and I don't. So
Wait, does it have it doesn't just give you an ID and a password?
yeah,
Yeah, what's your ID?
665 800 897,
Okay.
and then Y7ISKR1W.
Y7 ISKR.
1W.
Okay, 1W. Okay, cool.
Oh,
All right, I can see your screen. Go ahead and open up
my bad.
your
Got my
software and oh, cool. Now there you go. All right. So again, so in here you're going to have a lot of the same uh, resources, right? So if you see where it says result reading guidelines along the middle right there, yeah, click on that. That's going to give you really basic result reading guidelines. I'm going to give you the other one that's got a lot more to it, but this
Mhm.
is good for like at a glance, right? So if you have your practitioners that are doing interpretations, I would have them make sure that they've eyeballed this, or just have them have it at least they know where to look if just in case they see something that they don't know how to answer.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Let's go back to the main. All right. Now, if you go to lifestyle, let's look at lifestyle again. All right. So this gives a lot of the same stuff. Go to print up in the top right corner. Okay. Let's do PDF report. Okay. And see now on the right hand side, you see how it has patient report selections.
Yeah.
So if you select all, that's going to give you a full report, a full medical report. Did it do it?
Oh, you want me to do it? I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Now, if you click on wellness suggestions at the top,
Uh-huh.
and then you do hit continue on that, that'll save out a wellness report for us. Yeah. So that's the wellness summary. Now, if you scroll down here, see how that has trends right there? That's the
Yeah.
one. Yep. And then you scroll down here, it's going to give your patients the diet and exercise, tells them how to lose. This one's got a 31 pound weight loss plan. Um, and then it's recommending light intensity. Also suggested supplements are B and E. So with these, I don't think that you're able to customize your supplement stack. That's the only downside. But you still have all of the information that you need. If you scroll down even further, it's going to give the personalized diet suggestions. It's obviously not as pretty as the other one, but these are all good. It's good information. It's all gonna be impactful for the patient. So my recommendation is these are the reports that the patient either needs to have emailed to them or they leave with. And then for your actual medical reports, if you go back to the software, just at the
Sorry.
bottom.
First time.
Yeah, right here. Now do print again, PDF. Okay, and then patient report at the top. Okay, and then hit continue. Okay, so here, if you scroll up, okay, so it's going to give you all of the reports again, kind of like what I showed you before, where you have your main overview, and then it's going to give you the five. Um, I'm going to take control of your screen real quick, if you don't mind.
Please do. You're fine.
Sorry. But again, this kind of gives you some of the stuff that I showed you in the portal. And then let's look at the interpretation right here. So at the back, it's going to give you an algorithmically generated interpretation. It's not quite as comprehensive as the newer ones, but it's going to give you enough information to make a medical determination. It shows all of the waves, but a lot of that is really not useful in a fast-paced office. Those are more so good for when you're getting, if you have to ever do some sort of audit or anything like that. But also in here, if you look at these little carrots right here, it's going to give you a little bit more information on why, um, what each of the markers is means, right? So if you're ever asked about that, and then also there should be another part in here. It gives you the guidelines, and so right here, endothelial guidelines, that gives you the guidelines right there. So those are the same ones that I showed you. ABI guidelines. You got your CAN guidelines right here. And see, right here at the bottom, you say assessment according to the guidelines. This is the actual evaluation based on this particular patient. So before you even print it out, you'll be able to see this. This particular patient, normal range, right? So let's just go look and see. Yep. So no neuropathy on this patient whatsoever. There's nothing wrong with that patient. For vascular, they had a borderline marker here. So if we look at the guidelines, mildly reduced blood flow recovery after oclusion in both legs, moderate increase in systolic pressure at rest. So moderate hypertension. And if we look at their blood pressure right here, does that look like if you did blood pressure normally, would you consider that moderate hypertension? 165 over 67 or 161 over 75?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's how you'd go about doing an interpretation just on the fly in front of the patient. You know, they're asking questions, literally just go into these little menus here.
So for our neuropathy assessments, like we do like a sensory exam.
Sensory exam.
Yep.
And so that's why I was asking about or also I was asking about I guess, someone not showing up on here, but having sensory loss.
Yeah. So it may not be neuropathy at that point. And it could, in sensory, isn't that's more like a subjective test, right? That's basically you're relying on there's no measurement other than what the patient's telling you, correct?
Right.
Where the motor seems to.
But and in addition to that, we do a motor, we do a motor function test as well. And that kind of looks at their balance as well.
Okay. I mean, I can research that for you and get back to you, but my understanding with pseudomotor is like that's the gold standard for neuropathy from its very genesis. So if it's not showing up on pseudomotor, like if for small fiber neuropathy, if we're talking about for in your lower extremities, then it should not be like this particular patient. Like I guess what I hear you saying is like this patient could, it's showing up perfect here, but they could potentially have an abnormality in the sensory test, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
She's also doing.
what I would give to the patient would just be, or what you recommend just giving to the patient would be the lifestyle or the wellness report that we printed first, correct?
I think for patients in general, give them those. Now, if they have an issue, right? Let's say that they have an abnormality.
Yeah.
Like this is a healthy patient for most
Here, we can
part.
do it. You want to look at another one?
Yeah, yeah. Let's look at another one.
I can't remember. One of these I know has a,
Hazel Mays.
okay. This person I actually did refer to a specialist.
Okay. Oh yeah, well, because they're ABI and they have neuropathy and peripheral vascular. Yeah, and high blood pressure and cardiac autonomic neuropathy.
We responded to it just the treatment.
But they're not overweight. I mean, that's a good
No,
one.
she's not.
Yeah, so for sure, something like this. I mean, right here, you want to send them to the hospital, right? Like that's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Like you save their life essentially because that's a stroke right there, you know, at some point. So that was good. If we look at the neuropathy, yeah. Now, this to me, if I saw this and I was looking at a patient that looked normal, like looked wasn't overweight, or if there was like a new patient and I saw this, I'd probably retest them just in case because this to me looks like, nothing was attached correctly to their body. You know what I mean? Because that's just hitting all. That's saying there's literally barely any activity in their feet. Like like there's no circulation going to their feet, and then their lower extremities not getting any. So yeah, I mean, if I saw
This,
something like this,
I mean, this would be a result of if they had the like peripheral vascular disease. I mean, it'd
absolutely,
be a result of that, correct?
yeah, absolutely, that's pad right there. And well, let's look. Let's see what the guidelines say. Severe peripheral artery disease in both legs. So yeah, I mean that's not good.
But
So
if I remember correctly, though, like whenever I asked her, I don't have her chart in front of me, obviously, but I mean, she was having like also some typical PAD symptoms, like,
for sure.
leg pain when that's
Yeah.
better at rest.
No, she would have leg pain. She would have had leg pain. Then yeah. I guess the reason why I said that I'd test them again is just because it looks so drastic. But if she comes in and she says I'm having leg pain, then you know. Um,
Yeah.
but normally you'd expect someone with these markers to have some sort of weight issue, but to have a skinny person with these markers. But if they didn't have leg pain, then I'd be like, oh, I might test you one more time. But if they did, because I did one of these reports at a conference on a chiropractor, a doctor herself, and it came up like this on her lower extremity, and I was like, and she was normal, she was in decent shape, and I was like, I was kind of embarrassed. I was like, oh no, maybe we did this wrong somehow, and so I retested her and it came up again, and it was surprising. I was like, wow, you should go check this out because you've got peripheral vascular disease. Your ABI is way thrown off. Um, so yeah, it's possible. So I guess back to the question, this patient would get the lifestyle. I'd give this patient the entire test, right? Because they're showing abnormalities on vascular and autonomic and lifestyle, and I'd relate it to them and say, look, I'm sending you to the hospital because your lower extremity artery, your ABI is supposed to be 1 and it's 0.5. Like that's terrible, right? That's dangerous, dangerously low. Below zero point 0.6 is severe. So you're showing peripheral artery disease, and the sometimes what that will cause are strokes, heart attacks, blood clotting. You know, if it goes on for a long time, you could be at risk for an amputation. I mean, it's so those types of severe cases, yeah, give them give them the test and relate it to them, let them know, and make sure that their doctors get it. They're specialists.
Okay. So can you go through how you would like I guess go over it with the patient?
This particular one?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, but yeah, sure, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I would say is, um, so I would just go to this and I would just take them. I would essentially say, look, this report is testing your autonomic function, which is basically your central nervous system, and it's also testing your vascular function. The reason why we do this is because it gives us a comprehensive look at your overall metabolic health.
Uh-huh.
So it's essentially your blood flow and the way your nerves are controlling your body. Now, it doesn't have anything to do with your brain, and it doesn't have anything to do with your bones, but we're just doing blood flow and autonomic or neuropathic function. And we tested your blood pressure on your arms and legs. We tested the bottom of your feet for neuropathy. And then we tested how well your heart rate responds to exercise. That's when you blew on the Valsalva maneuver. So that's why we did that. And what this is showing is that you have some major issues. And these are very, very serious, right? Specifically, your ankle brachial index. A normal ankle brachial index should be a 1.0 because we're taking the blood pressure from the top of your body to your body, bottom of your body, right? And so if you have a normal blood pressure, your blood pressure should be the same all over your entire body. Now, that doesn't mean everybody has perfect blood pressure throughout their whole body, but that's how we gauge what ankle brachial and what the health of their vascular system. So how well is your blood flowing through your body? And what this report has showed us is that with your particular with your blood pressure, you have severe severity with your ankle brachial index, which means that your blood pressure is higher. I guess it's low. It's higher on your lower extremity than it is on your upper extremity. This means that there's more blood in your legs than it's getting to your heart, right? And so that can cause a lot of problems. You could have a blood clotting. You could have a stroke. You could have a heart attack. And the fact that it's this severe means that it's gone this long, and we need to get you to a specialist immediately because you're at a risk immediately. Right now, this second, you're at a risk, right? And so on that one, I would talk about that. So then I would say the other part that's also bad, right, is that you have severe small fiber neuropathy in your feet. That means that there's not enough blood getting to the nerves in your feet, and that's probably why you're getting leg pains. Now, if you're having pains at the bottom of your feet, it's probably from the neuropathy, but you could be having leg pains just because of your vascular issues down there as well. Because it's both, then you need to be treated for neuropathy as well. Now, I don't know if at your practice you guys are doing neuropathy treatments. If you guys are, then I would just enroll them in the neuropathy treatment. If not, then I would send them to a neurologist as well. And probably most likely this patient is diabetic, so they're going to need to go to an endocrinologist as well. But they probably already knew they're diabetic, and they probably already have an endocrinologist. So that's how I'd relate those two things. And then I would top it off with, at the end, I say, the good news is you're not at a unhealthy weight. So we don't need to do any sort of weight loss plan. What we do need to do is we do need to have some sort of medical intervention on your vascular, just so that we don't have any major issues in the near future. And then we're going to go ahead and start you on your neuropathy treatment plan. And every office has different treatments for neuropathy. So at that point, you would freestyle that. I probably wouldn't even talk to them about their ANS. Their not the sudomotor, but the other one, the cardiac autonomic. It's really, again, with cardiac autonomic, it's the other two, the big ones for this patient are their neuropathy and their ankle brachial index. So that's how I would explain those.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to show me one that's like healthy, and we can talk about how to explain that because those are probably a little bit harder to explain.
Yeah. Um, Here, we'll do mine. Just kidding. Is this okay? This report right here?
Yeah, we can look at the report. Yeah, we can do PDF or we can, yep, just open up the report. Yeah, just do, yep, perfect.
This is mine.
Okay. All right, I'll go easy on you. Okay. So, so I would say this is a pretty much you're in really good metabolic health, if not exceptional metabolic health. So the overall score here is comprised of 40% vascular, 40% autonomic, and 20% wellness. And you have a high overall score. That means you're in a low risk profile for several different types of metabolic illness. So we can look and see if there's anything that's borderline, but it looks like everything is relatively normal. Now, right here, this is one thing that you guys should know. So if we were to test you TM flow over and over again in a row, you're never going to have the exact same markers for the cardiac autonomic assessment. The reason being is that's literally how your body is regulating breathing and all your organs and all of that stuff, your heart rate. It's never exactly the same. And
Okay.
so to have abnormalities here, or borderline, or any of this stuff here, something like this is really inconsequential. It's not really like this. This wouldn't. If someone was like, "Well, why is it yellow?" You'd say, "Well, first of all, it's borderline. It's not really a big deal." But you there, you we might if we were to retest you, it might not even have an abnormality there. Is that's what I'm trying to say. There's not enough of an abnormality here to be able to say that you have anything going wrong with you. A lot of times when, because if you know, as you can see for the K 3015, when you stand up, um, you know, sometimes when you stand up, you get lightheaded. That's really all that means. Now, if it happened, if you have a symptom of that, if you came into the office, you said, "Hey, listen, every time I stand up, I get lightheaded," and then
Mm-hmm.
we do this test, and then we see that, then that's going to be more of an indication that you are developing towards POTS. But it's highly likely that if we retested you like today, you might not even have an abnormality there for that for those markers. So for the cardiac autonomic, the markers, again, they're never exactly the same, no matter how many times you test the patient, because it's your body's regulating itself on a constant basis. So these markers, I would say, listen, I wouldn't worry too much about these borderline markers here, and it is definitely you're still in very good health. Now, if you start noticing that you are getting lightheaded when you stand up, then maybe we start talking about looking
But
at POTS for you. But if you're not, then don't worry about it. Your
no.
neuropathy markers are fine. There's nothing wrong with your feet. You're totally fine there. Endothelial and blood pressure. Um, again, there's nothing here. Even one borderline here is not going to even register, so you're fine here. Um, and then your ABI, again, there's nothing here that's a problem. Look like your right dorsalis pedis might have had a, I can't even tell what color that is. It's yellow, right? So it's early stages. I wouldn't even worry about it because it's not even there's just nothing there. And then on your wellness, this is the exercise recovery. Again, it's borderline, nothing to worry about. It just has to do with how well your body is recovering from rest. And that, if you notice that this borderline right here, this HRV exercise capacity, And right up here, um, the oh, your Valsalva was fine then. Um, yeah, then I mean, to for yours, I would just say you've got pretty much ideal health. There's nothing wrong with you. Now, if we look at the actual interpretation at the bottom, let's see what it says. Is that mildly reduced heart artery blood flow, but it's acceptable. Normal range, normal, normal, normal. Mildly decreased at rest, that's your HRV. Um, Standing over cardiovagal regulation is standing. So this was the K3015. That was the one that we had a little bit of abnormality on. Again, those I wouldn't worry about them unless you're feeling symptoms. Everything else is normal, good lifestyle, normal, normal, acceptable. So yeah, I would just for you, I would just say you're relatively perfect health and you have normal ranges with everything. If you have some sort of symptoms of POTS, then maybe come back and test again and see. But otherwise, I wouldn't recommend anything.
Okay,
Do you want to do another one?
we can. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's up to you guys. I'm here. Okay, cool. All right, this is good. This is a good one. All right, so um, obviously, this particular patient has they'll already know, but they do have some weight issues. So we could look over here and see what it's recommending. 44-pound weight loss, right? So for this particular patient, we're gonna focus a lot on diet and and then some exercise, right? As you know, I mean, exercise is great, but it doesn't really do much for weight loss unless it's compounded by the diet. The diet's like 80%, the exercise like 20%. Um, so I would start by saying we all know that you're on a weight loss plan, right? Otherwise, your wellness reports look great. Okay, so we're just going to give you some recommendations on what to eat, and maybe we can work on a weight loss plan. If you guys are doing obesity counseling, perfect candidate for that. You just made another $35 with this report, right? So um, maybe we can get you in our obesity counseling, and that will help you there. Your vascular markers are really, really strong, which is great. Okay, so you're not at any sort of risk for a stroke or a heart attack or a blood clot or anything like that. So that's really, really good. Now, we are showing that you have you're trending. Now, I don't know what the A1C is on this patient. You already know, um, but they're definitely insulin resistant. So if they are diabetic, you already know that, then they're already going to know. But if you didn't know that, this is very important, right? You're trending towards diabetes, right? So that has to do with your diet. Um, they're they have inflammation. They have their blood clotting is going to be abnormal as well, right? So this patient, if they have any sort of wounds or if they get cut, their blood's not going to clot as well as it should. They're trending towards diabetes, and they have inflammation. The inflammation, the diabetes is purely a function of diet, right? So again, I would weigh heavily on diet with this particular patient. Um, and on top of well, they've got to be diabetic because they look at their neuropathy. They have severe small fiber neuropathy. So, um, If they didn't know that they had small fiber neuropathy, I would say, look, you're the reason why your feet hurt is because you have neuropathy. The good news is it's not a vascular issue, so you're not going to die. The bad news is we need to get you into the neuropathy treatment program and put them there. So I would put them in neuropathy treatment and weight loss counseling right away, and then I'd give them the wellness report. And if you need to send them to a specialist for neuropathy, send them with this pseudomotor evaluation. If you're doing neuropathy in house, then just keep them there. You guys want to do another one? Okay, so yeah, like this one would be hard to interpret. If I was just a doctor and I wasn't familiar with this, it'd be hard to interpret, right? You know easily that they're overweight, but they're already going to know. Everybody's going to know they're overweight. But then I would look into the cardiac autonomic, and really just in the cardiac autonomic. That's it. So here, it's looking like you're having a, I guess, what is this? One abnormal and two borderline. So I would look at the guidelines, CAN guidelines. I would say they're in, they're probably indefinite in step two, right? And so it doesn't really look like there's anything that they need to do, honestly. Unless they're in severe and they've got orthostatic hypotension or you have POTS, there's not really anything you need to do here. Or if they had autonomic dysfunction, but this particular patient, really, it's probably related to their weight, and it's not really that severe. So for this particular patient, I would just get them on a weight loss plan they may be like I'm probably 20 pounds overweight. So if someone's like, well, you need to go to obesity counselor, I'd probably be like, well, no, I'm just gonna do my diet myself. So they may be responsive. I don't know, but um, you know, this particular patient, all they need to do is improve their diet. That's it. There's nothing really wrong with them. And they can do vigorous activity, so they're healthy enough to be able to do you know high intensity interval training, hot yoga, running, run a marathon. Those type of things are things that athletes do, and they could stand to lose a little bit of weight. But yeah, other than that, this is a pretty solid score. Bless you. Oh, here's one thing I just noticed on yours. You can edit these comments right here. So if you want to have the physician go in here and make edits, they can easily do that, and that'll show up on the printable report.
Okay.
Really, you guys have all pretty much all the same functionality as the cloud, other than the interpretations are a little bit more detailed in the cloud. But for what you guys have here, it's pretty good. You have a pretty new version of the old software.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so that's good. Also, when we get off, I'll send you guys a link to, we have a school community,
Uh-huh.
you're able to ask questions, and talk to other physicians about ANS testing, all that stuff. I'll send you that. It's a free community that we put together. So
Okay. So you're going to send the recording and also send over the guidelines that you
yes,
have.
ma'am. Absolutely. And then I'll send my phone number. So if you have any other questions, just text me and I can answer them.
Okay.
And then I'll send you the school link as well, so you guys can sign up for that, and then you'll be able to ask anybody if you need to find other providers in your area or find a specialist maybe that maybe you need a cardiologist or a neurologist to do an interpretation or something like that. That'll be helpful there too.
Okay. Um, and as far as like ordering more supplies, you may not be able to help me with that, and it's okay, but like more of the
Absolutely.
electrodes.
No, I can help. I'll send you a discount link.
Okay.
Yep, definitely.
Well, I
I'll send you.
appreciate your time and
No, I appreciate you guys. Listen, I'm here as a resource, and I really appreciate you taking your time and listening to me. I mean,
yeah.
it's can be very, very confusing. It's taken me a long time to understand these reports. They're confusing.
Well, I'm glad I'm just not dumb.
No,
So,
no, no. You should have seen when I got into this. Oh my goodness, I can't even pronounce. Sometimes I do presentations for doctors, and they wouldn't even listen to what I'm saying because I was mispronouncing the words, and so they were just like, "You're an idiot." You know what I mean? So it's like I totally get it. It's hard to learn, and it's not. These aren't like obvious things, so it's all good.
well, I appreciate it,
All
and
right.
thanks for your time.
Yeah, Micaiah, I'll shoot you an email with everything. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.